On the way out of Cuba 2 weeks ago, we spent a day and a half at First Presbyterian Church in Havana, kind of stuck into some crowded dorm space. But it's a great active downtown church, about a 10-minute walk from the Capitol, and then just a few more blocks to what is Old Town. Allison Whitaker and I joined in one of their activities. This is an active church, and 2 mornings a week, they hold a session of Tai Chi in the courtyard. So Allison and I joined, and then there was a number of other North Americans. There was a group from Santa Fe Presbytery visiting in the country as well. Our leader, a Cuban man, giving instructions in Spanish, and then with hand gestures for all of us who are language impaired. We experimented with that form of Chinese martial arts turned into meditation and exercise, listened to Chinese music, and we ended the session with a song from the Taizé community in France. Cuba, China, France, guests from the United States. Wow. What a wonderful world we are privileged to live in. I love the connections of the church. Global, ecumenical, grassroots. All those branches and vines all twisted together that hold us up and connect us one to the other. And there is Jesus, who talked of being the true vine, and all of us as branches. Held together, bound together in love, tethered to the source of life. Thanks be to God. John frequently writes about these intimate connections of one to the other. And sometimes the language feels a little convoluted as we get in you and me and I'm and you and we're. It's all this jumble of connections through the Spirit of God. Jesus said, if you abide in me and my words abide in you, and then he remembers Jesus saying, ask what you want or need and it will be given to you. But there's also a commitment involved in that paragraph. For if you keep my commandments, Jesus also said, you will abide in my love, just as I kept my Father's commandments and abide in his love. Now, to tell the truth, I have quite an argument with verse 7 in that reading. That's the one that says, if you abide in Christ, ask whatever you want and it will be given to you. I have an argument with that one. It sounds a little bit like the bellhop version of the divine, always on beck and call. It's also the kind of vending machine theology. You know how that works. Say the right words and the goodies come out. I have a serious argument with that one line. Doesn't work that way. But I do know very well the experience of vine and branches. The kind of connections that give life. As we are told, and I think as many of us experience, we are in this web. We are in this connection of branches tied together, connected to Jesus, the vine, to God, the vine grower. Being connected is the key to the passage of both the Gospel of John and the description of love in 1 John. Now just look for a moment at all the ways that we are connected as a congregation. Now I doubt, even though I've lived in Annapolis for 19 years, that I would know anything about the Robinwood community, except for the fact that we have a Stair Tudor site, and we have friends in that community. We have friends all over the county because we are the church that sponsored Stair. We have friends in Leningrad, Czech Republic, and new friends in that dusty little small city called Cabarín, Cuba. A year ago, I spent some time in Haiti by myself, And there's one paved road through this whole section of rural Haiti. And I wanted to learn some Haitian Creole, didn't get very far. But all I needed was Zanmi Kodep. That's all I needed. Friend of Kodep. And I'd walk up and down those roads perfectly safe and greeted with smiles by the people in the area. And because I'm your pastor, I'm invited into living rooms and hospital rooms and intimate places of birth and death, sorrow and celebration. The ties are remarkable. The connections are powerful and life-giving. When I'm out on the streets in Annapolis and someone introduces me as the pastor of our congregation, more often than not, somebody goes, "Oh, wow, that's great. You're the church that sponsors AA. You've got the Red House." We are immediately given that credibility. A newer friend of the church said, "Yeah, I was asking people about going here." I love the language she said. "I'm going to First Presbyterian." And the person said, "Ooh, that's that badass church." We have a reputation of being strong and gritty and connected on the street. Over the years that I've traveled to Haiti, cell phones had gone from non-existent to ever-present. My pastoral career of 41 years, I began with youth groups, and of course, if you need to make a phone call, you'd have to borrow the church phone, or if we were in the city, go to a payphone. And now, well, everybody's got that constant buzz of a cell phone. It's universal. Everyone, rich or poor, old or young, want to stay connected to the people they love. Haitians will skip a meal in order to have the money to go up to the road, find a store with a generator to recharge their cell phone. Now this morning we've welcomed Elaine to the life of the community of faith. She is the fourth generation of women within this congregation, following mom and grandmother who were also baptized here. Now, while this particular family's ties are unique, the parents' story shares a very common chord. Whenever I meet with parents prior to a baptism, I ask the basic question, why are you doing this? What's important to you? And one way or the other, I hear from just about everybody, I want to be connected to a group of people who will help me raise my kid, who share values and can tell the Christian faith. We all want that contact and support and community, to care for one another, to share our values, to be surrounded by kindness and prayer. We are made for community. I vividly remember an older adult of the church, very introverted, very shy, also single and living alone. And she said to me once, "You know, I like Easter a whole lot better than Christmas." And I was expecting some grand theological explanation. I said, "Well, why?" She said, "Well, on Easter, we're all in the church. On Christmas Day, I'm alone." We are made for community. We are hardwired to be connected. Loneliness and isolation are the curse. Community is the gift. What is fascinating about this fairly obvious observation is that it is the same for rich or poor, for healthy or for weak. Now, often in the church, when we think about needs, we respond rightfully to the obvious physical need, poverty or oppression. What's harder to realize or to recognize is the other spiritual and emotional frailties of isolation and loneliness. Oftentimes they're masked or hidden, but quite real. The irony is that wealth often brings greater isolation. The wealthy of us can have a big home on a big lot or in a gated community designed to keep people away from each other. And then there was the advent of air conditioning. Now this is real, it shows you my age, but anyway. I mean, a couple generations back, remember before air conditioning, at night, you had to go outside to cool off. That meant you saw your neighbors, you said hello, and all those rascals that get into trouble, they had a whole street of people to keep them in line. And then air conditioning came, and we went inside. And it's possible in the cold of winter with heating and the hot of summer with air conditioning that persons will go for days without seeing another person. Real human connections can be the most important gift that we in the church can offer each other and the world. And remember, for some who live alone, the passing of the peace may be the only time of human touch. Life-giving connections. That's what the church is all about. And that is the main reason why we are not shy at all to ask for your time, your money, your prayers, your passion, because all of these are forms of how we connect. Now, I'm a month away from retiring, and I'm getting into that kind of nostalgic thing. Oh my gosh, what is this all about? And I'm thinking, and I'm often amazed and grateful about the ties that have been given to me by virtue of being your pastor and then over the many years in other congregations. I have met an incredible number of faithful, loving people. That includes you. Folks who love God and love neighbor as best as they can, even with all our quirks and limitations. I've been privileged to sit down for a meal or a drink with people of the likes of Bill Coffin and Parker Palmer, Alan Bozak and Marcus Borg, Frida Gardner and John Dominic Crossan and Daniel Zanotti. Well, the list goes on and includes some of the best and brightest that the church has produced in the last 60 years. The church sent me way back in the early 1980s to the Soviet Union. I was in Russia and the Ukraine to meet with church people and to pray for peace. The church in Western New York sent me to South Africa to stand alongside those fighting against the system of apartheid. You have sent me to form friendships in the Czech Republic, Haiti, and Cuba. When our team returned from Cuba just 2 weeks ago, I said to them, has it sunk in how fortunate we are? We have just experienced the grit and faith of Christians on the ground in Cuba. That is remarkable. And many of you have welcomed me into your lives with all the struggle and joy, laughter and tears. I have been so blessed by the church, by you. So this is my urging that comes from John. Don't miss the chance. Seek the ties that bind, the connections that give life. Oh yeah, it's a hassle at times. It takes work. And it takes grit. And sometimes you're alongside somebody, you go, I don't know. I don't know about that one. And that's the joy of being stuck together and bound together within a community of faith. Now, it's not magic. It takes sweat and blood and tears and laughter, prayer and study, care and risk. But what a gift to welcome the depth of life and to dwell in love. The chance is there. Don't miss it.